Hello and welcome to the Patron Saints of Pop Culture podcast. This is part 2 of our episode on The Handmaid's Tale Season 2.
So 2.
Yep. This last week while we were looking at things to kind of research what we were going to be talking about for this season, because there's obviously a lot to talk about.
Pretty much, we could have had an episode per episode.
Yeah, we could have. And we saw this Entertainment Tonight special on kind of talking to the cast about how they felt about the season finale. And the producer of the show had said, this entire season is about motherhood, and it's also about the Gilead within.
Yeah.
So there was something that that kind of struck me a little bit, was that it really does kind of feel like a part of a war within ourselves, to see other human beings as human beings, rather than as the wife or the housekeeper.
So like tools.
Yeah. Rather than tools. That, we have these power systems that have become the norm. And when the power systems kind of gain power, and that you have been pushed down so much that it seems like there's really nothing more that you can do to fight back against these power systems, that you end up feeding into the power system a little bit because you've lost hope. Mm-hmm. You've lost hope for being something other than, well, in this instance, Offred.
Yeah, man, that was so tough, like watching her lose hope.
Well, for me, that was one of the biggest trigger episodes for me, was that moment with Aunt Lydia as saying, no, this is June's fault, not Offred's fault. And for me, that just harkened back to so many of those sermons, so many of those Sunday school lessons, so many of those things that I heard growing up in this evangelical culture, was that, oh no, you've got a bad part of you, that the flesh is the bad part, but the spirit is the good part of you. And that's the part that you need to feed, and blah, blah, blah. Is that in a sense really dehumanizes people. Mm-hmm. It completely strips them of all hope, because how in the world can you hope to be good if you were made bad?
Yeah. And
honestly, I think that this here, I think June's journey from that loss of hope in those few episodes where she had lost hope, it was painful for me to watch. I was kind of digging my nails into my head while I was watching these episodes, because I'm like, this is so much of what I grew up with.
Heck, I'm getting sad just thinking about the episodes.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're resigned to the abuse that you're put under. And this is a form of those power systems, because they have then gained power over you. Mm-hmm. Is to say that, oh, they know how to be good, and only they know how to be good. And so you're bad, but I'm good, and I know good. And so you're resigned to this as part of that loss of hope, is because, okay, so I'm just going to have to do what they tell me to do, because that's the only way I can survive. That's the only way I can be anything, or good, or be human, as it were.
Live, be alive, like actually not dead.
Well, and this is a prime example, not just in Gilead, but in the evangelical and fundamentalist church in America, that it's become a religion of control. Mm-hmm. That, in fact, yesterday I was driving to this board game sale, and I passed by this church that had a sign for their VBS out front, and the sign, I kid you not, said, "Live the life you're programmed for."
Ugh.
And it's supposed to be this robot-themed VBS. And I'm like, really? Really? Because one of the biggest criticisms about the church in America is that they are just robots.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're leaning into the skid, then is that it's like, okay, great, live the life that you're programmed for.
And I have to commend them. I think the reason why they're doing this is because they're trying to focus more on, like, I don't know, what's like in the news and the media, and like getting kids like attention, and like robots is kind of a thing now. But they could have definitely thought about that phrase before they just put it on
not
there.
sure what publishing company put out this VBS program, but your PR person is horrible.
Yes. Whoever let this through needs to be let go right now.
Yes, that editor is just, no. But I mean, this is really them telling the truth about themselves. Is that this is a religion of control, that you're going to be programmed to do these things and to accept this abuse of you because you're bad in their eyes. Is that you're not a real person, you're a tool. Mm-hmm. Or you're a star upon their crown once they get to heaven.
Ew.
Yeah, that's language that I grew up with. Is that this... See, and this is my biggest beef with it, is that religion in and of itself is for growth. It is for spiritual growth. It is for you personally to find who you are as a spiritual being, not as, trying to follow some rules or regulations or what have you. And this is the whole thing what Jesus was talking about. And this is why I loved that guy, was because he was saying this is about you and your personal relationship with a larger system, with a system that doesn't say that you're bad, but that loves you and that wants you to succeed and to grow and to become something better. That religion is for growth, not for control. And honestly, this is, where if I were to give advice for the resistance and Offred and for June, is saying, no, that's not June's fault. That's not Offred's fault. They're the same person. Mm-hmm. Is that whose fault it is Gilead's fault.
Oh, yeah.
Is that you were doing what you needed to do to survive, to grow as a hurt person, to protect your body, to get out of those abusive power systems. Mm-hmm. And so what you need to do is to question everything, that you're not being paranoid enough.
Yep.
And as a paranoid and anxious person myself, that is that seems like a very weird and ironic thing for me to say, is that you're not being paranoid enough.
Maybe you just need to be paranoid about the right things.
Well, and see, this is, when I brought up earlier with the Get Out and with the Stepford Wives and Rosemary's Baby, is that these were all things that were basically saying you're not being paranoid enough. Mm-hmm. And that these are things that are part of those abusive power systems that are already in play. Get Out, it's obviously the racial power systems that are in play. Stepford Wives, it was about female empowerment, as well as Rosemary's Baby. And those power systems where the gender power systems that are in place, it's just horrible. And this is the thing, is that I really want people to be able to question everything, to be able to allow themselves to be human beings, to not say that you're a tool. And there are some evangelical tools for sure, but that's a completely different statement than what I mean. But is understand that you are first and foremost a human being. That you weren't created spiritually bad. That you weren't created to be this horrible, flesh monster or whatever it is that they're using nowadays as their imagery. That you're,
robots.
Yeah, you're not a robot. That you are a human being. That you need to be vigilant. You need to be vigilant and knowing that you're going to be told all of this stuff because they're going to continue to try to control you. Try to control you as a human being, try to control you as a star in their crown when they get to heaven. That's all you are to them. You are not a human being, so you need to stand up for who and what you are, that you need to be able to speak out and say, no, this is not okay. This is abuse. This should not continue. That's what the Me Too movement is about. That's what the Time's Up movement is about. That's what the Empty the Pews movement is about. That's what so many of these resistance movements are trying to say, is that enough is enough. We cannot tolerate any more abuse, that you need to see us as human beings. And this is the thing that I kept wanting to jump into the screen, like especially that moment when Fred was pulling his belt out of his belt loops. I wanted to jump into the screen and grab his belt and punch him in the face and say, no, these are human beings. See them as human beings. And like, I'm sorry, every time I see what is his face? Ray Fiennes, like even when he's not on the show, is that now I'm equating him with his character. And I'm like, that hatred is just welling up in me, which tells you that he's pretty good at doing that, doing his job as an actor. But anyway, I just wanted to take that moment to say that there is that Gilead within, and that's the thing, is that so many of these movements, especially like whether you're leftist, whether you're conservative, whether you're right or you're liberal or whatever, that you need to allow yourself to be a human being first and foremost, and you should not see the other side as less than human, because they're not. They're human beings, and they have valid points, and you need to listen to them. And I think this was evident in the show, especially with June's mother, who was kind of more on the deep end for liberal.
She's pretty hippy dippy.
Yeah, and like inviting her to like these protests and all this other stuff. Whereas June kind of saw that she was right, in what she was doing, but also in a way that she was like, but I also wanted this. I also wanted my life with Luke. I also wanted my family. And those were good things. And they were not bad things in any way. And I think this is I think so much the point, especially with liberals, is that we kind of forget that we're human beings and the other side is human beings. And that we're not fighting against them. We're fighting against bad ideas and bad theology. And the right, with their complete, utter buy-in to this power system is like they forget that they're human beings. And that's what liberals are trying to tell you, is that they're human beings, that we need to treat them like human beings. I'm sorry, I'm going to get off my soapbox now, but it's, this is, like something that was very, very close to me and close to my heart, especially while watching this, was while these things were going on in our country, is that we were also seeing the dehumanization of Latinos. We were seeing that, kind of people throwing Latinos under the bus and saying all of them are MS-13. I'm not MS-13. I've never met an MS-13 person in my life. I don't know. My cousin could be an MS-13, and I would not know. And that's the thing, is that it's not evident. It's not like they set out, like they were born and all of a sudden when they were 2 years old they decided, oh yeah, I want to be a monster. That's not what had happened. It was they were forced into this power system just like anybody else. And this power system took advantage of them and turned them into these violent beings, these violent tools, just like the children soldiers of Africa, just like
so the gangs in
examples.
America.
Yeah, that's another thing, is that with gangs, like they join the gang because it's a place where they can be themselves. They can be vulnerable, and they feel like they're accepted.
Like a family.
Exactly. And that's the same thing with MS-13, because they're a gang. It's the same thing with almost any of these power systems. They prey upon that feeling of vulnerability and wanting to feel accepted. And this is exactly how Gilead, I'm sure, got started. Was that Fred was looking for a place to feel accepted. So he joined this, really militant right group. And, this is where Serena's ideas were being accepted and really batted around. So
Yeah.
she felt like she was a part of the group when she really wasn't.
Yeah.
And so this is why I say be vigilant. Be vigilant, be vigilant, be vigilant. If somebody is treating you not like a human being, get out. Get out of that system. Do not let them to continue to abuse you.
Okay, I don't have a good transition for this.
I don't have a good transition for that for you either. I'm sorry.
Here I was toting how great I was, and now I'm just like, and now talking about longing.
Yeah.
So
longing to get out of the power systems.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. I think kind of harking it back to the actual one of the major themes I saw kind of going along the whole entire season was longing for something can really make you do some weird things. And I'm sure you guys have done it, like our audience has listened, and I'm sure that you've longed for something and have done some weird things in order to get the thing that you longed for. I know I've done some weird things to get what I've longed for. Weird as in like unusual and sometimes probably frowned upon. But we definitely see that happening in our characters as well too. I kind of have like three like main examples that are probably pretty poignant, I think. That are pretty obvious of these people longing to have something and then fighting for that and then the result of it. So, of course, there's Eden.
Ugh.
Yes. So I had this like love-hate relationship with Eden. Like I saw her and I was like, I kept on telling myself like, she is a product of her upbringing. She is a product of the brainwash that she had to grow up with. This is not her fault. I kept on having to tell myself this because she was almost like that little annoying, like little sister that like wouldn't leave you alone.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Or like that little annoying cousin that just kept following you around. That's pretty much how I kind of visioned her as. But in the eyes of Gilead, she was a woman. She was a ripe old age of 15 and married off already.
By the way, did you know that we only have two states in the United States that have outlawed child weddings?
Yeah.
Child marriage.
Yeah. Marrying a child under the age of 18.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. It's way too easy to have even a 14-year-old in some states marry somebody.
Some states it's as young as 12.
And that's absolutely not right. And it is happening. Like, this isn't just some, like, ancient rule that's been on the books and people have forgotten about it. No, these are, like, this is actually happening and people are actually doing this. I actually knew somebody... One of the only
times where we're going to say Google it.
I know. I actually knew somebody in high school, my freshman year, who was married. Yeah. But anyway. I mean, this is not something... And unlike... the child marriages here in the United, like that are happening right now, it was almost kind of like flipped, I guess. Like Eden knew like this was her responsibility. Like she knew that this day was going to come and this is the thing she was going to have to do. Nick, on the other hand, was hoping that it would not happen, you know? Mm-hmm. And as of right now in our country, it's kind of almost like the opposite. Like, the guy is the one that's kind of, like, hoping it'll happen and is, like, kind of, creepy. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't want to go more into it because it makes me want to punch something. But for Eden, I also feel so sorry for her because she grew up with this expectation of when you get married, like, your husband's going to be your partner and best friend, and you guys are going to have this wonderful connection, and it's going to be great, and butterflies, and rainbows, and sunshine. And it didn't happen. And her expectations were just shattered.
Well, and this is very much a part of that bad theology and bad programming. Mm-hmm. Is that when you're programming people, is that you're a human being. You have no idea how to program a person. You have no idea who you are to begin with. Mm-hmm. How the crack are you going to to understand how to program somebody else?
Yeah. Well, and I think her problem ultimately was because of the system that she was brought up in, and she even confronts Nick. She's like, what am I doing wrong? Like, why don't you love me? Like, why aren't you treating me like the wife that you should be treating me as? And I understand Nick's, dilemma. Him like, because you're a child and this is really creepy, and the only reason why I'm doing this is so then, we don't die, but he can't openly say that to her because he knows that she's been ingrained into the culture for so long. But that still doesn't satisfy her longing for connection. And so she, as a teenager does, finds another young person, mm-hmm. and they're smitten. And she, again, confronts Nick, like, when she's like, you caught me cheating, like, on you. Like, why aren't you mad? Why aren't you upset about this?
Well, and you see that I don't know what he's called, guard.
He has a name, but he's not important in my book at this point in time.
But he was also a product of that programming. Was mm-hmm. that he had that toxic masculinity thing going on.
Yeah.
You saw every time that even when June was trying to care for. I can't remember what her name is.
The handmaid without an eye.
Yeah, the handmaid without an eye. Is that he was no and no touching.
Yeah.
And it's like, seriously, man, like, even like the older guards are like, whatever.
Yeah, let them talk. Like, they're not harming anything.
Yeah.
But, I mean, she didn't care. Like, she saw that as like, oh, well, Nick's not my protector, but he'll be my protector. Like, I need a protector, and Nick clearly isn't that. So I'm going to latch on to you because you clearly have the qualities that people have told me I need to have in a husband.
Yeah, the gender role programming.
Exactly. And they ended up kind of a Romeo and Juliet situation, I guess. I wouldn't say that they loved each other, but they definitely were lusting after each other. I mean, we've all been 15.
Yeah.
Those feelings are definitely lust. And ultimately, she longed for the life that she was promised. She unfortunately didn't get it because that's not how life works. And when she did find that spark of happiness, her family betrayed her and she ended up being killed. So her longing for the connection with another human being that was supposed to be her life partner, ultimately in this scenario ended up killing her.
Yeah.
Hopefully that doesn't happen in real life anymore right now. I'm sure it does occasionally right now, but gosh, we can't go down that path again.
And I've seen way too many youth ministers who have done stuff like this, like not killed kids in pools, but
Well, I hope not.
Like publicly shamed their youth for being in these relationships that they didn't feel were healthy, and it wasn't just like made up in their own minds, mm-hmm. like oh, this isn't healthy because like he's going to defile her or whatever. And it ends up being like genuinely good for both of them because, like she doesn't like the fact that he bullies other kids, and she tells him, mm-hmm. And that, ultimately helps him to understand, oh, I shouldn't be doing that. And, if I want to be a better person for this girl, then, so be it. But I've seen like youth ministers youth pastors who have like publicly shamed their kids, like on Facebook and on social media and stuff like this. And I as a former youth minister, that's something where I would want to punch that youth pastor in the face and be like, dude, what what in the world are you doing?
Maybe they're just jealous.
Well, no, because they're part of that controlling power system
Yeah.
thing. Is that they're part of that culture that says you need to control these kids. And that's not the job of the youth pastor. The job of the youth pastor is to say, hey, I'm here to help you spiritually grow while you're an adolescent.
Yes. Help you be a grown-up one day.
Help you to be a human being, a full, complete human being.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that's my job. I'm not your babysitter. I'm not your cruise director. I'm here to help you grow.
Yeah. So moving on to another character, obviously the main one, June. I mean, obviously she's longing for safety and she's longing to be in Canada. Like, that's the main goal for her.
It's the dream.
That's the dream. Possibly going to the real United States, but right now Canada's like more realistic because it's closer. But this pretty much kind of like solidifies her journey throughout the whole entire plot line, is this longing to make sure that her children are safe. Mm-hmm. Especially knowing that she has another child on the way and knowing the fact that she's uncertain about what's happening to Hannah right now. She does not want to have another child of hers in the same system because, especially after what she saw with Eden, she knows what could happen to Hannah and she's terrified. And that's one of the things that, you know, brings her to talk to Serena about mentioning, hey, maybe, you know, don't you want a better life for our daughters of Gilead? Don't you want, you know, your child to be a little bit more secure? And I think ultimately her longing for her children to be safe is also what stopped her from actually getting in the truck. I'm sure I wasn't the only person who was like, get in the truck, just get in the damn truck. And I mean, I only have one kid, but I know if I was given the chance to run away and be safe, but knowing that my child could still be in potential danger, like I'm sure Hannah is safe right now, but the fact that in the future, like it's going to be dangerous for her, I understand her wanting to stay and to fight. And to probably, I have a feeling that next season we may see her trying to plot, now that she kind of knows where Hannah is, trying to figure out a way to get her back and to take her up to Canada as well, too. So that's a little bit about June. Obviously, longing has to do with a lot of just like normal narrative device, because that's pretty much what drives most characters.
Yeah.
But I feel like in Handmaid's Tale, it is kind of making them do weird things. Like the fact that Eden was okay to publicly say, oh no, I love this boy, I'm willing to die for this love, was kind of a weird thing. Because most people, all she had to say, you know, it basically is repent and say, I'm sorry, and she would have been fine.
Yeah.
Even Nick told her, like, no, if you want to live, I'm totally okay with protecting you, but if you want to live, this is what you got to say. And she chose not to do that. June, she did a weird thing. She could have saved her own skin. I mean, as humans, that's part of our, like, life force is to protect ourselves from dying. And she is willingly putting herself back out into danger. And then there's Serena. Gosh. Like, if there was one person I could just... I have, a love-hate relationship with her. Like, I feel for her, but then I'm also like, you're the reason why Gilead's the way it is.
Yeah, it's not a like a pure hatred, like a villainy for her, where, like, Fred, it's like, no, he's just a jerk. I mean, Serena obviously is a jerk as well, too, but I think part of the reason why she acts the way she does is because of the jealousy and the longing that she has for being a mom. Mm-hmm. And as somebody who's been through that, I mean, obviously I haven't had somebody carry my child for me, but but I've been there where we were struggling to have a kid and we just could not get pregnant, or when we did get pregnant, we could not keep it. And I understand the jealousy and the rage and the just feeling so angry at those people who just
I felt like were clearly ungrateful for the fact that they could get pregnant without, like, any trouble.
Yeah, and they seem to kind of, like, take it for granted.
Yeah. But Serena does take it a bit far. I mean, I would not do some of the things that she did. Heck, Serena, when we go into the flashbacks, she was an author.
Yep.
She was a spokesperson. She was clearly this public figure, and she was willing to give up her freedom, her career, heck, she was an author and she can't even read anymore. I mean, that's like being, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an equivalent, like being a NASCAR driver and then taking away, like, all of your body parts so you can't drive anymore, you know? Like, I don't know. I couldn't think of anything else. I thought about a painter, but I was like, no, because you can still paint with your mouth. And, like, it was the only thing I could think of. Think of a better one and come back to me.
Well, the NASCAR driver, but not allowed to drive. I think that's all you had to...
Well, that's true, but I want to
not
be
to
a little
even
bit
look
more,
at a car.
But I want to be more like she was, all of her tools, that kind of what made her
Mm-hmm.
in, like, the United States, when it used to be the United States, has been ripped away from her. She can't do it anymore. She can't read because people have hidden words from her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of, like, in-depth thing that I think that she's going for. But that's kind of a lot to give up for a child. And I understand that in Gilead there's been a drop in birth rates, which is actually real life. And in the Western world right now, actually in a lot of the world, birth rates have declined. But it's not the reason why people think it is. A lot of people are having less kids by choice. A lot of people are not having kids by choice. A lot of people...
well, when you have this existential dread that, permeates now in America, and I'm sure probably the rest of the world too, is that watching us, is that we are the major superpower, militarily wise, of the world. And if we can be taken down so easily, yeah, it's terrifying.
Yeah. Well, and her push to become a mother was so strong that she was willing to push other women down in order to get what she wanted. Like, it was her idea to have the Handmaids. Like, it was her idea to form this power structure in order to get what she wanted. And man, come on, ladies. Like, we can't do that to each other. We've fought hard for the stuff that we have. And we're still fighting hard to try to be equal to men. And the fact that
to be human.
Yeah, exactly. To be seen as human. And the fact that Serena is just kind of throwing everybody under the bus so then she can have a baby, it's kind of weird. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of extreme. And I'm sure in Gilead, people are still, like, adopting babies out. I'm sure in Gilead there would have been other ways that she could have had a child. But in her mind, like, it wasn't just her that she saw as having this problem. It was the rest of the country with trying to bring up the birth rates. And we know it's something that's going on in this series.
Yeah.
Around the world, because when they talked to the Mexican diplomats, I think.
Yeah, it was season 1 where they talked to the diplomats from the different countries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they even brought up that they're having the low birth rates as well, too. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. We're kind of pushing our limit a little bit, I feel like, in some places. But in this last episode, she finally, like, had this moment of, like, oh, what have I done? Like, what have I done? And it was her that helped build this theology and made it real. And when she went up, she honestly thought with the privilege that she had and that she was given at the beginning of this movement, I believe that Serena really did think that if she came to the commanders, I was going to call them generals. I don't know. The commanders.
I call them the tribunal.
I feel like she honestly thought that she could just simply go to them and plead her case. They would applaud her and say, oh, Serena, you're right. You're always right. And it would have been fine. as we find out, no, it's not fine. And I think she realizes like the freedom that she had enjoyed in the past. Her daughter is never, well, I'm saying daughter in air quotes because she's clearly not her daughter, but she realized that she has pretty much taken something that she used to love doing and is never giving the daughters of Gilead the chance to be able to do what she did.
Yeah.
Which is read and write. Mm-hmm. And that, I feel like, this was actually a Supreme Court hearing, I think, if I remember correctly. Maybe not Supreme Court, but somewhere. There was a teenager in Michigan that was suing for his fundamental right to basically learn how to read and write, and it was turned down. I'll have to
research that.
Yeah, I remember reading it. I can't remember which court it was in, but I remember him losing and just being flabbergasted that basic reading and writing, like being able to function in society as, as normal as we can be, like was denied to him.
Well, and that's part of what we've talked about before with literacy rates and recidivism, is that it's basically being able to be a human in society is like literacy is a big part of that.
Yeah.
Is being able to, understand words. And I think that's something that we take for granted so often.
Oh, yeah. Well, in my family, dyslexia runs pretty strong, like on my dad's side. I have a little bit of it. It's not, I've been able, obviously I can function dyslexia is not like, you're going to be doomed for life, like you're never going to get a job, like kind of a thing. But it does make growing up very tough as a kid and a little bit embarrassing depending on the situation. And my grandpa, he had it so bad to where his teachers just gave up on him. Like he was just like, whatever. Like we're just, you're a hopeless case and we're just going to let it go. My grandma actually taught my grandpa how to read because she actually had the patience and the support and the love to, and he was willing to learn. It's just that the teachers didn't know how to teach him how to read and write because he just had to learn it a little bit differently than the rest of the kids. And they didn't, back then they didn't have the resources and the tools for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And, so me, with that kind of a background, knowing how to read and write is a little bit more, I see it more as the gift it really is. Because it really is a gift.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my lecture about why it's important to teach people how to read and write.
All right. So in part 2, we've talked about the Gilead within, and we talked about longing. And so we've got a little bit of time left here. So we want to do a lighter note and go down a darker hole of our predictions for season 3.
Hold on. A lighter note, but go down a darker hole. Okay.
Yes, on a lighter note for us.
Is the lighter note a candle that we're going to take into the darker hole?
Yes, exactly. It is the torch that we are bringing. Honestly, in season 3, oh man, I have no idea where it's going to go. I can see June going back into the system to try to fight it from within, but I don't think it's a safe place for her anymore. I really don't know what's going to happen. I have no predictions. I honestly, I do feel like she's going to try to try to get Hannah and leave, and she's going to be undercover, and I'm not sure what that's going to play out as.
Yeah. I have a feeling that Nick's going to die. He pulled a gun on the commander. I don't know if I need to explain why that's bad to everybody. So I have a feeling that if he's not going to die, he's going to be punished severely. I don't know if Rita is going to get punished at all. or not.
I'll have a dark admission on that. I wanted him to shoot him.
I think we all wanted him to shoot him.
Okay.
I think that Emily's commander that like helped her escape after she stabbed Aunt Lydia, I have a feeling that he is actually part of the resistance. I have a feeling that this is him trying to atone for his sins of setting up the colonies. Yeah. And I think because you can tell he's tormented, and you can tell that, I mean, the way that he like blatantly ignores the rules when they're inside the house, like kind of like gives you an idea. But and the way his Martha talks to him too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
spoiler alert, Aunt Lydia is in season 3.
Oh yeah, she didn't die. And we can confirm that. It's not like this big reveal, but yeah. And so I think that he's going to come more into play as like a background resistance. I think maybe that's why he hasn't been able to keep many handmaids.
Because he keeps getting them out?
Yeah, I think that maybe he either keeps getting them out or because there are some handmaids that truly take their job really seriously because this is the best life they've had because they came from really bad backgrounds, because we heard about it like a story in season 1.
Season 1, yeah.
So maybe that could be the case, but or maybe he's just like, I don't know, giving them a break, I guess, in quotes. But so I think that he is secretly part of the resistance in real life because, I mean, how else would he have known about the truck? How else would he have known where to go?
I know. How did he get a Tesla? That's what I want to know.
How did he get... Because there's no more fuel, so he has no other choice. I don't know. I think that... I don't know. That's my predictions. That's everything else I'm not really confident on, but those are my confident things. Nick's going to get hurt or he's going to die. And the commander that Emily's last commander is secretly like the head
Lawrence.
Commander Lawrence is like higher up in the resistance.
All right. So we've been working on a few things. Next week we are going to be doing Ant-Man and the Wasp. A much bigger change of tone.
Yes.
To this week.
Throw a little bit of comedy at you.
The week after we are going to be doing A Dark Place. The Dark Place.
You mean A Quiet Place?
Quiet Place, that's what it is. I don't know. I was thinking of going into a dark place with
her candle.
This episode. Yeah. The Quiet Place. And so we've still got a lot to talk about here soon. One of the things that I wanted to bring up is that we just this week, Hank announced on the Vlog Brothers channel about Pt.2. That is happening in 2019, early 2019. I believe it's in January. And we would love to go because we really love doing the show. We love, kind of doing our craft here, as it were. And it's part of our way to get our creativity out. And we would love to learn more on how to do this better.
Exactly.
And so we've put together a GoFundMe page for this. So if you would please just think about helping us out, like $5 would help us out.
Yeah.
We would love to go to this, and here's the thing: if you help us to go, we will do an episode from Seattle, from PodCon, about something. We'll discuss it later. I'm sure when it comes time
of your choice. Maybe we'll put everybody in a hat, and you could pick what we talk about.
Yeah. We'll talk about PodCon. I don't know. So, anyway, go check that out. I will put the link in the show notes below. As always, you can let us know what you thought about today's episode or any of our prior episodes by giving us a call. And you can give us a call or a text at our phone number, which is 720-372-3879. You can also find us on social media, on Facebook or on Twitter. You can also go to our webpage and find us there at thehonestfaith.com. So, with all that being said, we invite you to come and join the conversation.
Bye.